Welcome. This is Leah Bales with the Miracle Makers Mindset Monday. Today's Miracle Maker Mindset Nugget is, nevertheless, say yes to life. This particular Monday follows a weekend and a week of some really horrible things happening around the world, especially here in the US. And many of us are feeling that very strongly. And a question I hear in my own heart and in my clients and people around me is, how do we deal with these terrible things that are happening in the world? And one of the things I believe is that we make a choice not to ignore the terrible things and not to get swallowed up by them. We make the choice not to turn away and pretend they don't happen and pretend everything's just fine if our life is working okay, but to turn and bear witness, to bear witness with our hearts open and our full capacities expanding. And not to let ourselves get swallowed up by fear and despair. Because when we get swallowed up by fear and despair, we become less effective. We become less able to bring our goodness and our work and our truth into the world. One of the things that I believe we also can do is to look at people who have lived through difficult times in history and who have brought inspiration and goodness and heroism into the world in those times. And one of those is Victor Frankl. Victor Frankl, I never met, but is a hero of mine. He wrote the book, Man's Search for Meaning. And one of my very favorite quotes is, everything can be taken from a man but one thing, the last of human freedoms to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. And of course, we can update that a little bit and have it be more gender neutral, or more, not neutral, but gender inclusive. And we could say, everything can be taken from a person but one thing, the last of human freedom, to choose one's attitude in any given circumstance. Now, Viktor Frankl was a psychologist, and he went through the Holocaust. He lost most of his family in the Holocaust, and he himself was in 4 different concentration camps. And so he writes from that perspective of truly having almost everything taken from him and realizing in that terrible, terrible stripped down situation, he still had choice of attitude. And that when he looked around at the people around him, the way people dealt with that horrible, terrible situation made a difference. We each have the opportunity, we each have the freedom to choose our response in any given situation. And so in these terrible times, I like to ask the question, what do I want to create in the world today? What do you want to create in the world today, given what's happening? What stand do you want to take? Is there something you feel called to stand up for? A group of people, a position, a stance, a leader that you want to work with? What is there that you have in your life that you feel called to create today? And what one, maybe very small step will you take for that? Viktor Frankl's book was called Man's Search for Meaning, but the book originally had a title I like even better. It was Nevertheless, Say Yes to Life. Nevertheless, say yes to life. Yes, to life. Yes, there are terrible things happening. There are terrible things happening close to you, around you, things you don't know about. There are also amazing things. There are people creating beautiful systems and programs and acts in the world. There are people being heroic. There are people giving love. You have the opportunity in your life today to create beauty and love and peace wherever you go. You have the opportunity to stand up, and you have the opportunity, whatever is happening, to say, nevertheless, I say yes to life. Thank you. See you next week.